These are your shoulder extension hinges, and it's going to look like a tricep kickback, but it's going to be more for mobility than it is for muscle. So we're going to set up on a mat, and for this exercise, you can do this with tennis or lacrosse balls when you start, but I find most people can jump to weights fairly quickly, and I would start with either 2.5 or 5 pounds. It's going to be incredibly hard. I'm going to show you off the mat, and then we're going to go into the exercise for a couple reps. So the goal of this exercise is twofold. Number one, to see how high we can get our hands towards our shoulders. And then number two is how far we can get our elbows towards the ceiling. So this is shoulder extension, which we need for dips, bench press, pull-ups, and all that. So during this exercise, we're going to be trying to keep our hands as high as possible. So hands closer to the hips will be easier because I only have to extend that far. If my hands are higher up, notice I have to do a much larger extension. Then, during this exercise, you're going to try to lift off further and higher each time, even though it's probably not going to happen. Now, another thing is we can make this harder or easier. So from behind, if my elbows are rotated out, which is internal rotation, you're going to find that it's going to be a little bit easier. To make this harder, you can try to externally rotate or bring your elbows closer together, and that's going to make it harder as well. So that's a couple ways that you can make it harder or easier, besides adding weight. Now, when we do this, it's going to be very easy to just shove your head into the ground. I want you to make sure that you try to keep your neck and head relaxed during this exercise as much as possible. You're going to get a little bit of neck training because you're going to push your forehead into the ground, but make sure that if you're slamming your forehead into the ground, try to relax the neck. Now, we can do this with our palms facing in. That's going to be a little bit easy. If I do my palms facing forward, which will be towards the ground, that's going to be even harder. So I like to change the angle of the hands to hit different lines of the tricep. So I'm going to show you a couple reps, and remember, the goal is that this is harder, and then I'm trying to lift harder, and it should feel like a behind the back triceps, and this is absolutely brutal. If you try it with like 2 or 5 pounds and you can't get off the ground, I would just go with tennis balls. It's going to be hard enough. Now, you can rest between reps. So in between every rep, you can rest the weights on the ground. Or if you want to make it hard, try to keep your hands off the ground. So here we go. Here is our shoulder extension hinges. I'm going to start here. So easy. Remember, pull your elbows together, forehead into the ground. Don't ostrich super hard. We're going to lift off. I'm going to hinge up, up, up to the ceiling, hold, and back in, in. I can rest or go into another rep. If that was too hard, I can go closer to the hips. When I lift off, I'm trying to poke the ceiling with my elbows. Lift, hinge out, 2, 3, boom, 2, 3. If I want to make it super hard, I go in here. And then we realize how weak our middle back is. Remember, try to touch the elbows together, forehead to the ground. This will look like a max effort. Lift and hinge out. Hinge, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, back in, 2, 3. Awesome. Then we can change the angle. So remember, if I go palms forward, that's going to be even harder. So then I lift, hitch out, 2, 3, in, 2, 3. One of my favorite exercises, you're going to realize how we've spent so much time doing exercises like dips and bench press, and yet we have terrible active shoulder extension. Same with shoulder flexion. You're going to really notice that the more you train this, the more comfortable you feel in a push-up, in a dip, or even when you're pulling chest to bar in your pull-ups. That is your shoulder extension hinges, and I hope you guys like it.